I know there's lots of Black Mirror fans. I did a trailer reaction. We haven't watched all of the episodes, but I thought we could, across time, do little reviews of each of the episodes as we move through them.
We're not going in order either.
No, we're not going in order.
I had a certain someone out to watch.
So we watched last night Hotel Reverie. I don't know which number this is in the series. I don't know where it comes.
I think it's further. It's later on.
It's later on, yeah, absolutely. But this stars, the top line actors are Issa Rae, Emma Corrin, and Harriet Waters and Awkwafina. But also
Elliot Barnes-Worrell, who was my acting teacher last year.
So we had a little bit of skin in the game. Well, in fact, I've worked with Harriet Walter. I worked with her last year. She's a wonderful, wonderful theatrical actress. So we had a huge fond affection already for members of the cast. And then we sat down to watch this last night.
So...
Wow.
I mean, we specifically watched this episode just because I really wanted to see Elliot in it. But turned out to be... Not only it was just to watch Elliot, it was just a really, really good
astonishing
episode.
watch. This is a really astonishingly clever piece of filmmaking, this. I was blown away. Now, bearing in mind, just last week, me and Maddie watched the Daniel Kaluuya Black Mirror, which is excellent, the sort of Britain's Got Talent type thing. And but I tell you what I noted about watching that, and I don't know how long ago it was made, was how unsort of gimmicky it was, or sophisticated in a way it was in terms of its special effects or its tech. And of course, technology has moved on. And so this film, this episode, I thought was an interesting example of how the tech's moved on, so Black Mirror can be that much more ambitious. But actually, it's always about how strong the idea is.
Yeah.
And the idea in this film, in this episode, so I keep calling it a film, is that good.
Yeah, it did feel like a film. I mean, to be fair, it was like
it is like a sort of almost an hour.
I think it's the longest episode of this season.
And so basically, what's it about? How would you describe it?
It's about
an actress. So it's an actress.
Yeah, an actress who wants to be in a film. Like, she always gets leads, but she wants to be in a film where she's the one pursuing someone instead of being pursued. Right.
She's a huge fan of classics.
Yeah, of classic old films. And there's a specific classic old film called Hotel Reverie, which is why this episode's called that. And the head of the studio, which is Harriet
Walter.
She she's talking to Awkwafina about making a remake, maybe, and they land on, let's make a remake of Hotel Reverie. But they have this new kind of tech. What was it called?
I can't think. It's called Real World or something. Real World. Yeah.
Reopen Real World, something like that. They have this new form of tech where, effectively, they've kind of created an AI world, which is the film, and all the characters within the film only know like their lines, and to them it's a real world.
Yes.
And they like kind of place what's her character name? Brandy. In the film, in place of the original lead. And it's basically, as long as she hits her marks and gets her lines completely like accurate, then the film just plays out like it did before, and she's just planted in it. And so like it was a black and white film, so she like sees everything in black and white.
Yes.
All the other characters are like paused until the scene starts. It was like really
clever, and I like that. I think there was a line that Harriet Walter or maybe Awkwafina said to her. She said that they said, think of it like a theatrical performance.
Yeah.
You go onto stage, you've got one take, and you're going to run through it to time.
Yeah.
So she was essentially in the digital landscape of a movie with all its cues and all its scene settings and music and everything. And as you rightly say, she had to hit all her beats and hit all of her kind of spots. And she's she has a special device put on her face, and she so she's in a sort of coma-like situation. Yeah. And then you have this room where essentially, as you say, Harriet Walters is the head of the studio, and she's desperate for this to be a good product and a good film with all the right kind of emotional points. Awkwafina's kind of much more involved in the kind of
speaks to
speaks to Issa Rae on the kind of open talkback, if you like. And then you have banks of monitors where all of these people are kind of monitoring it's so clever, narrative arc, love interest, intensity, and all these kind of markers just to make sure that they're hitting all the right. Yeah. One thing I couldn't work out though, right at the beginning, was the idea to make the film slightly different? It was, wasn't it?
I think the idea was for it to be identical just with her in it.
Just with her in it, and for her.
But there were a couple moments where, it was just really clever because there were certain things that went wrong or weren't exactly to script. And I think the first thing being she couldn't play piano, and she needed to be able to play piano because it was like a massive part of the plot, and like the whole And the reason why it needed to be exactly the same was that if anything slightly different happened, it could change the whole plot. And then if the final line isn't the right final line, then she would not be able to be pulled out of the film and she'd die in it, basically.
Yeah.
So,
oh my God,
like, the concept was just so strong.
The concept was amazing. And if you think, I was saying to Maddie, Maddie also knew this, but I was just reminding her that, the whole debate with the writer's strike and the actor's strike in Hollywood was about fears around AI.
Yeah, so it was pretty...
and one of the things that a lot of actors, certainly extras, were striking about was the idea that they were being invited in by studios like Disney to have their likeness photographed and filmed in doing absolutely everything. And then they'd get a small amount of money for every time they were used as a digital extra. They could be literally populated in the background of any film, which removes the need to have extras on set. So you can see why studios are up for it. You don't actually have to have all bodies there.
Yeah.
But it's a slippery slope, and that's what the strike was about.
But I also felt like all of the people, obviously I've not properly been in, you would know more than me, but like I felt like all the people that were kind of also in the studio, like working at either the plot or keeping an eye on their love interest, I felt like they were all so believable as well.
Oh my God, they were so believable.
Because that could have been really, like, I feel like that kind of stuff can usually go a bit...
because it was a little bit like, when they're trying to land something on a planet.
Yeah.
It was like a control room.
Yeah.
And but what was clever was every department of filmmaking was in there. You had the young researcher kept saying, I've got a plot development. Could I get a credit? Do I get a credit if this works?
Also, it was so good as well, because I loved the moments where... There were like really good moments in this episode where they would just sit with silence. There was like a kind of a fairly long scene where we were just kind of watching the control room people watch the film, but they weren't talking. Like they were just invested in the film, and I just thought that was so believable because you wouldn't just be talking the whole time.
No, you're right. And that was as the film was cruising. Now, what's great, as Maddie says, an errata happens whilst they're filming, the piano thing, and of course, as is always the way, it's a little bit like the final destination, is it? Idea that one thing goes wrong, and something else goes wrong, and it's almost it's the butterfly effect, isn't it? Yeah. And so things start to go wrong, but what we have to get, Issa Rae is sensational throughout.
Yeah, she is.
But I have to give a particular shout out to Emma Corrin. Oh my God.
She was really good.
So now understand, she's playing essentially what amounts to like an AI version of the actress character in the film.
Yeah.
She's in the
playing
film.
like old Hollywood.
Yeah, she's so
she
good.
Did so well.
But then, because Issa Rae's character has nudged the kind of, if you like, the algorithm out, and it's all gone a bit out of sync, they start to get to know each other.
Yeah.
In a weird way, and Emma Corrin starts to become aware.
Oh yeah, she
was made aware that
of her real self though, like the actress
who played her,
and she like gains a, what did they call it?
A consciousness.
Yeah, but they said
agency. Yeah. She gains agency.
Yeah, and she's like aware of her existence.
I was so excited. I nearly rubbed my eye, but I rubbed my glass. I went like that. I didn't realise I had glasses. I was so excited. But there were so many details in this that were so fantastic.
Yeah, because basically what happens is one of the guys in the control room like spills his tea on the setup, so it like destroys their means of kind of communicating with her or controlling the film. So she's kind of left in the film, and then it's really weird because she's in the film, like she's actually getting a soundtrack.
Yes.
They can hear the soundtrack, but then like the music cuts out, so she's like, what the hell's going on? But obviously everybody goes back to being frozen apart from
Issa Rae and Emma Corrin.
Emma Corrin, which is weird because you're like, she should be frozen as well. And then time basically happens differently. So on the real world, they're trying to get back and make everything work again, and it's only been like what?
Minutes.
Yeah, minutes. Yeah. But she's lived like months with Emma Corrin.
The calendar's just flipping
so they've
by.
Like fallen in love and gained this relationship. And then I thought it was so good, that bit where so they finally managed to kind of get it working again. And they're like, okay, so we're gonna pick up from where we left off in like 5 seconds. And she's like, what do you mean? Like, so she's gonna forget everything.
Yeah. Oh yes.
So there's like months and months of romance.
So they've built this budding romance.
They then do like a countdown 5, and she just has to pick up from where they left off months ago.
And at the point that the countdown kicks in and they pick up, Emma Corrin forgets.
So doesn't remember anything.
And there's another wonderful moment, isn't there, where Emma Corrin tests the edge of the world. She walks around the film set.
Yeah.
And as she goes off into this darkness, I was getting under the skin vibes where it's got.
And she was like, and then she was getting the memories of like the real actress who killed herself. Yeah. How she killed herself. And it was so rich.
It was so, and it sounds so elaborate, but it's done so believably.
Yeah, and you can and easy to follow as well. Yeah, like, do you know what I mean? Sometimes that kind of thing, you just lose yourself in it because it's too complicated, but it was so easy.
And as an actor, or I was finding myself thinking a lot about filmmaking and about what we ask actors to do.
Yeah.
I thought it's a really interesting piece about how, because what becomes really interesting in the Emma Corrin character is how her real life, the real life actress who played her originally when they shot it, her life has bled into. They say it at some point, don't they? They say,
yeah, because they were like, oh, why is she aware of her real name being Dorothy? Then they said because when back in the classic, when the real actress played the character, she put so much of herself into the character that they're basically the same thing. So that's how she was able to gain a consciousness.
Because she put so much of her own personality into acting, so that it spoke to that. It also spoke to the idea
of... It's also believable. I'd be like, oh, that would make sense.
Yeah, and we had great moments. This is where Harriet Walter was so good, and Awkwafina watching it. You had moments where all of the people kind of watching this thing unfold and realising it was running out of control. When it went off into the territory that wasn't the original film, so essentially a new film is being made, they were being captivated by the new narrative. So you had moments
they were
where they weren't really enacting help. They were like, oh my God, she's falling in love with him. For him. Oh no, that's not meant to happen. So it also spoke to that magic of distracting and being distracted and immersed in a story. What makes a good story?
Yeah.
I thought, to be honest with you, this is a bit of a spoiler.
And I thought Elliot was wonderful.
Oh, Elliot plays, Elliot plays her agent. He was very good.
He's in like 2 scenes, but I loved it.
Oh, there was so much to like about this film. Beautifully done, very clever, very nuanced. It's about filmmaking, it's about acting, it's about storytelling. And I have to say, whilst Issa Rae is sensational, she really is, I found this knockout. What Emma Corrin had to do, because she had to play a little bit like the actress in Companion. She had to be not aware of her limitations and then become aware of her limitations. And yet be in possession of a character that she wasn't aware of.
She just did it so.
She did it so beautifully.
Beautifully, yeah.
So beautifully. Fully recommend. What's that episode called again?
Hotel Reverie.
Hotel Reverie. Check it out.
What would you rate it?
What would I rate it? I'd give it a great big fat 100.
I would too. I actually can't film.
Of all the Black Mirrors I've seen, it's my favourite.
Yeah, it's my favourite of recent seasons.
Oh right,
of any of this.
Yeah, I absolutely loved it, and I would immediately watch it again with your mum, because I think it's one of those ones where there'll be so many details.
Yeah.
Pick up, like when I noticed the dog's gonna drink the poison. Yeah, all these moments. It was just really clever, and it's very meta for filmmakers.
Yeah.
It really is. No, I'd give it 100. What do you give it?
No, I would as well.
And I'd give Elliot 110. Tell him that.
Yes.